maybe to add, maybe it would help if next time all the presenters met together beforehand and talked about what is this part now you did.
No. It's funny because we are at that meeting at the time, like at the moment. This is the meeting.
Okay, then anyway.
I can relate to that because you're not referring to the others' presentations. So if
But this is like, how do you know the other presenters and other presentations? The idea was, let's put them all together, had a little taster of each, and we will understand what they want to do. And this was called prototyping, and this is it.
Okay.
So we are kind of not only meeting, but even like trying to participate in each other module to know what our idea, like each person's idea about the module
we're in the process of developing.
It's fun.
Okay.
It should have happened before for the very comfortable participation. I can see that.
No, but then it should be. We are doing it right now, but then it should be open, and it should be that each is saying, okay,
more space for it. Okay.
This is what I find important on that subject, or embed it more in the bigger context.
More prototyping spirit in the prototyping.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I'm still not clear on, and maybe there's no clarity on this yet, is who is the group as you look to do this at a larger scale? Because you mentioned students and like it being curriculum, which is a very different setup than professionals within the same organization, which is different than professionals that are in different contexts in different organizations, which to me drastically changes these things. So I probably don't have as much background in a lot of these subjects as you all do, so I'm trying to take this in more as a participant. So I think we're way too early of like 5 modules into a 5-day process to be able to say what fits where and how to do it, because I think it's going to all be really interesting subjects. It's going to be just the flow of them and how they work together. So I'm not ready yet to start talking about that, as I'm trying to just take it all in. But as we start thinking about the bigger program and how much reflection time do you have and how much time do you focus on these things, it's really going to depend on also the audience that you're targeting. And I'm still not clear on that and helping give some of this advice.
The thing that we did the 3rd day of the workshop in March.
Okay, nobody did understand you, yes? Half of the room was not in the workshop.
Yes, but I'm telling those who were in the room, I'm suggesting to those who were in the room not to forget it, because this thing also, we talked about how we could, in this structure, have it in an evolutionary and in a way where we could adapt the rhythm and all kinds of things to the different audiences. So we shouldn't forget that. I just thought back about it.
But basically, an idea that indeed the program would be adapted for different audiences and would be what we are prototyping now is more like a generic core, I would say. But if it's going very well, I think that the optimal solution would be to have like a colony of different programs for different audiences. So not only we have multiple locations geographically, but also at each location there can be a master's program for students. There can be even educational modules for schools if somebody is up to developing those, and we can put it together into one initiative, which is like when something is developed, then it can be used for different programs as it fits. For example, those based in Brussels, we want to develop not a master's program for like master student, but it's like advanced master. So it would be for professionals, mostly those like EU institutions workers. But for example, Saifan in Israel, I don't know if it still holds this target, but like there's group more like designers and more like a focus on designing and using thought, like thinking in the process of designing. So like there has to be always a target group, but once we have like enough material, we'll be kind of like stitching together a program and like kind of targeting, and then of course it must be different for each one.
Right, because it's going to be different framing for each of those.
Yes.
Like people that are still master students that may already have knowledge in this may want to just dive in more into the theory side, where if you open my booklet and look at my key takeaways, it's actually all the examples that we used yesterday, because that's what will resonate with other people. The El Al airplane, that idea that people's memory is not always the most trustworthy source was a really interesting example. The beaver changing the ecosystem was one of the key things that I wrote down. Like, I wrote down...
And the sacred dimension of the beaver.
Yes. Like all the takeaways.
The endurance of
the worm example about like the AI of like what is it, like those examples that were closer to the ground for like a professional standpoint, wanting to learn and wanting to help other people through this is more relevant to me than like other people that may really just want to dive into that theory part. So it's interesting talking about this, but collectively for how you organize this and if it's the right organization, the right subjects being talked about, because we haven't seen 75% of what has come yet, I think it's too early to start really like diving into.
And I absolutely have a good point that you need to like consider the audience before saying if something fits or not. Like
right.
It's kind of good point.
For me, I would say.
Gael always mansplains.
The management of the energy is something, because it's like 5 days, there's a lot of content. I have the feeling that we do not have enough time to integrate the material. It's one thing, so it's more like a continuous thing, and we rush one course after the other, and we don't have time to go to the toilet, to have coffee, or just no pause. Just like it's not doesn't have the opportunity to sink in. So maybe we could find a way to resonate with what you say, just like understand how you navigate, get a better clarity of the intention and desired output of each module. Because I was thinking today that, okay, we are embarked on a journey, and how do I manage my attention? Because it could come from here or here, I don't know. So would like to gain more clarity, so it might be more concentrated and have some breathing times. And maybe, like you say, articulate between each module a bit better. But obviously there is lots of content. So one suggestion might be for another edition, just maybe to pick one theme and have the different points of view of each professor, just like to address one theme.
Like today is for a particular theme.
Or the week or whatever.
But when you say theme, it's like not a
Topic
knowledge.
subject.
Yeah, a topic subject.
Maybe patterns for half day or a day.
Or
Really understand what a pattern is.
So you could better make the distinction between the different approaches, how it each lights up the subject, and see, okay, oh, that type of thinking gives me an understanding of that. That type of thinking gives me another understanding.
Yeah, it's another.
What I wanted to say is that what I really appreciate is doing it and talking about it. So I think this is something which should remain, because it's really pleasure, to have this opportunity to enjoy or explore own process of thinking within different activities. So it's not only about thinking, but it's also, it was an intention. It was the intention to have this, which is connected with, being within yourself for a while, and then being with someone, and then with 3 people, and what happened then. But it's very difficult to keep the focus on it. Not as a part of exercise. I think this last part, this pattern thing, it was really interesting material there. But I would say that because it was too much, I would say it was somehow packed, too little time. I would say that we couldn't take a real, the learning.
We could probably take the course material we have and it would stretch into 2 weeks. I mean, that would be ideal. The amount of course material we have, the number of people here we have, the amount of information we could all probably share. We could easily stretch this into 2 weeks. I mean, we could probably have a whole day on pattern thinking, for example. If we had that time, there would probably be more space to discuss and reflect on. Because I agree, it is moving quickly.
Yeah, but it's about, you have 1 hour and a half or 1 hour, and then you have something to do with the person. But still, I think it's easy to lose this, focus of attention, that it is about thinking and how it happens in this particular moment. Because, you are exercising that, but without this kind of meta-reflection. Yeah.
No, but I think you need a little bit shortage of time. You need to create a pressure cooker, be able to deliver students that really have made a progress or changed the way they think, or learned or acquired new skills of thinking.
I think
you need a little bit too much content, I think. There has to be a little bit of pressure, I would say.
You mean the limitation is a
okay.
productive?
I think so. But within that, I agree with the navigation, so that to be able to give it the position where you are in the whole learning objective.
Because in my mind, there is story behind it. And I remember it from this design phase, and I haven't been there to the very end, but it was like, starting with understanding the hard work, and then understanding models, and then to go how we differ, and that was, so, but we have our own expectations, what would be there, and then if we understand the individual differences that people are different in thinking, then something what is different in me, how I could vary for myself, and then how it is with someone, how it is with group. So that's it was there is the idea behind it, but probably it's not visible because it's changed so big.
I just have a suggestion for next week when there's the body thing. Can we put the body thing in between the 2 sessions of
Morning session.
So we have this breathing membrane type, and we can let things sink in.
To me, if I was reflecting on something I ran away from in other conferences and what we're doing here that's different is I was associated with the big history community for a while, and there's just no community level reflection at most academic conferences. So for example, big history presents itself to the world as if it's a universal story of everything and everything's included, but if you just observe the community, the scientific materialists don't like the Buddhist spiritualists, don't like the religious Christians, don't like there's all this internal community tension. So the universal discourse doesn't reflect the subjectivity and the community becoming. And there are some factions within the community that have more power than other factions within the community. There are people who feel marginalized and so forth. And to me, the school of thinking should be able to present a space and create a space where each subjectivity sees itself reflected in the becoming of the community discourse. So, you bring your uniqueness, I bring my uniqueness, everyone brings their and that's sort of reflected in what the community practice becomes in some sense. The question I would feel is how much difference is too much difference, like what difference can't we process, basically, you know, and I think that goes back to the point I was trying to make about art being this inherent object that can hold difference, but if it was a political imagery, you know, what do people basically, you know, where do we run into a brick wall, basically, you know, where do we run into I have to put up a wall to keep the Mexicans out, you know, like, you know, like basically.
Do you see
Because
anything,
there are no Mexicans here yet, thank God, but
When it comes to they didn't get the visa.
they didn't get, oh.
do you see anything like this here, that there is like
I'm
too
trying,
much difference for you to like be able to like it still or something?
me? I don't see that. That's what I'm interested in. I think what I've seen so far is that difference is being held. But what I'm interested in is what would be too much difference. What line would we cross where someone would be like, this person's, you know, this person's not doesn't get it, right? It was like, because for example, the big history community, they're like, those people get it, those people don't get it, right? Where do we get to the point where someone's like, that person doesn't get it, they're out, right? Like this line.
So if I could, I don't know. You finished.
I'm never really finished. I could always keep going.
It is absolutely correct, and you are absolutely open about it, and this is what I love.
Persistence, the multiple subjectivity.
I will never stop. I'll never stop.
Unless stop.
You did it very well.
And I have a very short refraction period. That's a sexual joke.
Thank you for naming it.
I couldn't translate that if you wouldn't have edited it.
What I wanted to say that probably the discussion we have at the moment is the reflection of these differences of perception, and I think that maybe we are not yet there where these big history communities are, and maybe the difference are not so visible yet, or somehow, I wouldn't say high, but but not there yet. Yeah, because I think that I think it's a real issue how to deal with that and how to make it possible, and that's something what I see. Oh my goodness! Because yes, I see it as a crucial for this kind of initiative. But the question is, if we manage and how.
For me, one of the very nice thing about this week is this discussion right now. You don't see that in any other school. And this is, like you say, where we can process our differences, our diversity. And this feedback process, I think, is very deep because we attune ourselves. When you feel the quality of the listening of everybody is in full attention. So it's very precious to me. And you as a leader, you just say, okay, how can we improve that? I find it is extremely valuable as well.
Yeah.
So I would say we need to have that as a thing in the week or in the school of thinking, because it helps to bring value, but on a solid basis. What is that smile?
I'm wondering how Marta feels about you identifying her as a leader.
Let's say coordinate.
What about eternal matriarch?
Oh, now I think she's high.
I do think, so it's interesting you talked about the different communities. So this is happening a lot in the design community right now. A lot. What is design, who gets to do it, and who's doing it right, and is there a right and wrong? I think it's okay within a program to present contradictory ideas. that naturally, because not everyone's going to agree anyway. So to me, if you're trying to allow people to take control of their heightening their awareness, like as self and collectively, you've got to present things that are going to naturally be in tension with one another. And some people are going to go towards one and some people go towards the other, but if the goal is for everyone to heighten themselves in some way, shape, or form when it's over, does it matter which one they chose or like which things that resonated more with them? So, you know, even if it needs to make sense collectively as an entire training apparatus or class apparatus, but I don't think it all necessarily needs to complement each other. I think people get into that too much and then you go away thinking you had this like huge experience when you actually just had like this narrow experience and like you weren't exposed to anything else. And I don't want people to naturally start limiting themselves because it may go in contradiction to what was previously said.
So like requisite variety for things, that you have more and you can choose, and not that you have like a coherent narrative, you are just
Right, like I like the coherent narrative that I hadn't heard before of, like, here's a little bit of the science, like here's how it kind of works, let's focus on the individual and the self first, and then let's start expanding into the group. Like that logically makes sense to me. I don't know if it does to everyone, but like that made sense to me. Within the individual, we're going to give you a lot of different ways in which to look at that, and same collectively within the group, because it's going to be different for everyone. But if everyone takes something away, if everyone takes one or two of these things away, everyone will have at least improved a little bit and taken away new things that they can bring to the table in the future, rather than saying like this is the way and this is the package and here's how everything interconnects with each other. But that's just my philosophy for how I've developed curriculum in the past with a lot of trainings.
I would say to second that, like to see the positive dimension of contradiction and incoherence, like my problem with the point about the big history community is that the groups that are fighting with each other see the answer as the elimination of the people they disagree with. Like, if that group wasn't here, then everything would be great. You know, instead of seeing the contradiction as informative, as productive, as actually something you can really actually learn from if you're willing to let your identity dissolve a little bit.
But there is nothing to learn from these people. From the one that don't agree with you.
May I add on that? Yesterday I had a strong experience somehow in the train. We had a delay because somebody jumped on the track or something. So we've been rerouted, and I was talking to my seat neighbor, and I was like, you know, in Africa that happened to me, that somebody jumped on the train I was in, and the guy said, "Oh yeah, me too. Actually, I also in Africa I drove on top of someone."
Actually, I was the driver.
And actually,
but you know, in Africa we don't really well. We just
he was the driver. And I look at him, and, but the point is that normally I would be totally shocked and angry and say, you motherfucker, you know? But because we talked and we attuned emotionally with each other, the way he was saying that, I was his friend somehow, you know, who were talking. So I had to take his point of view. And it was even more shocking because he drove on top of two people on two different occasions, and he didn't stop. And because, you know, Africa didn't want to get robbed in his truck and stuff like that. But the point is, with the big history communities conference that I don't know about, from what you say.
It's just an example.
Yes. You can easily have, like, when you take different approaches, like a conflict, and say, okay, I need to eliminate you, so we're gonna... But here, with this type of meeting right now, we get to know each other on a deeper level, and therefore, your difference, I learn from it. And I have to expand my own point of view because I like you. And I just want to take a bit of your view in my view, you know? So the emotional resonance between us allows that we can talk about different, even contradictory things, but on the same point of view. I don't know if it makes any sense.
No, but then, yeah, but you know, just to make to say, I haven't confronted contradiction yet. We talk about what will happen when contradiction will come, but so far.
Yeah, we're quite similar. I mean, we're different, but we are kind of.
I'm sorry, my group dynamic in mind is is saying "ow," yeah, because I would say sorry for interrupting. I would say yet. And I'm not saying that that it will happen.
Okay.
But I'm saying.
Okay.
And I doubt it hasn't happened.
I think we have created.
Thunder is always happening everywhere. It's inherent.
So who is up to contradicting? Let's have it. Like to bring it up.
Here, I said there is no contradiction.
Let's talk about
I mean, we have the AI discussion and like
Yeah.
the worm discussion that was a natural like conflict point. There was the false memory discussion.
Yeah.
There were multiple times where people, even at just a micro level rather than like collectively, there have been disagreements, and it doesn't mean one person.
Or not disagreements, but questioning, or what can I say that in English? You're not at once. You're not agreeing at once, but you question the assumption. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's already been there. No one's gotten super angry about it.
Right.
No,
Well,
as I
I
said,
guess-
no contradiction. I mean, you're just proving my point.
I mean, when I think about prototyping this and exploring it at different institutions, like already again to use the example when I was at the University of Exeter, I could already see that the types of things that are in the culture right now are things that I think the thinking school should tackle as obstacles. Like for example, like the big talking points of like microaggressions or safe spaces and things like this, where like people feel like if someone says something that they disagree with or that's offensive to them, they're just gonna short circuit and explode, or like or if someone says something that makes it not a safe space, then that person has to have their speech regulated and stuff like this. I mean, I think the thinking school could really be a lab, an experiment with these notions, because I think we run into paradoxes here that don't have any clear answers or solutions.
There are different ways to learn. One is to relate to somebody else, and is very more or less emotional sense. Another way is to compete, just to prove your point. So it's maybe a different situation to organize. I don't know exactly how to do that in a controlled way and in a pleasant way, and not so that some of the people are cast out of the group, but in a small way you can help. I think why not compete?
I mean, I think it should explore different ways to do things, even if only one of them is a competition. Like, a competition is a viable way to have a team dynamic. It may not be the best, but it's certainly used throughout the world. So as like these different modules are done, there should definitely be some a variety of strategies used, which has already happened here through like each person like showing a little brief part of their course, but there's got to be a variety of execution strategies as well. As everyone is just like a half an hour lecture, then a half an hour activity, then a half hour get back and like chat with each other. It gets fairly repetitive and boring. I've enjoyed that there's been a huge variety in how people.
Everyone.
I still have some problem seeing the purpose or the overall goal. I mean, we have having the different topics and so on, and they're interesting, but I'm still not sure where we want to go with this, and maybe a top-down approach, or at least from both directions, would be a bit more helpful. That we say, okay, what content do we want to have, or what capabilities should the people at the end have, and so on, and then we figure out what content we need and how we can get there, where are they, how we can get them from their momentary position to our goal, and so on.
To me, it would be a success if you were able to take away from this course something relevant to your own personal AI philosophy, for example. Like it's about what you take, like, and that can't be pre-programmed, like, because I don't know what you're studying. I mean, only you know what you're studying, and it's your goal. And so, like, if this was a useful environment for you to go back to your own work, then that would be a success, I feel.
Then it would be for me a success, but not for.
Well, the group success would be if that resonated with the people who come in general.
I think it's complicated because we have many levels and we are like working simultaneously on like different levels. Like the highest level is that the group will, like this group will succeed if we, have created like a very successful training or educational program that teaches different people in different contexts how to think well, how to think, the kind of the activity of thinking. And of course, what does it mean? Kind of, we are exploring, but if we have this school, and if like what we've done here, we can use it, and it will be a huge step towards having that program on the ground and operational. We will succeed on this level, so kind of operational level. And then what will if it's like a pretend event already of the school, and we are the students in the school, which is simultaneously happening, the school succeeds if we think better, if we are better thinkers. And if we are better thinkers, that means that for each of us, whatever we are doing in our context, professional, personal, and so on, we do something different in here, and something that makes much more sense for us, and it's just better. And then I repeat better. What does it mean?
But I think this is what you criticize, right? That or in my opinion, I don't see yet so much of a difference to other schools I went to. And I thought of a school of thinking that I would see a difference, a huge difference to all other schools that teach a content and that are there where presenters are there and teach a content, and I understood you like that all the participants take part, and maybe when I think about thinking, to my mind, or for me, this is important, and that the process is open for that the participants can say that, maybe? Or did I get
Partially.
Okay.
The overall goal is that we develop a program how we can teach people become better in thinking. And so, for me, the first question would be, what does thinking mean? What capabilities should we strengthen? For example, is it more rationality? Is it to get a feeling for groups, for example, so that the group become more efficient? Or is it more elaboration or whatever? What is it? And probably it's several different tasks. Then we have to figure them out. And then we have to say, okay, of each task or each category, this is the goal. How can we achieve this? And then we look, who do we want to teach? Because if we want to teach someone at university, it's completely another problem than if we want to teach someone on the street. And how much time do we have? Is it a weekend seminar? Is it master students who has 2 years or whatever? And then we can develop a program, for example. And of course, then we can test it, but I would start at the top.
I just wanted to ask you a question, because you were referring to what was said, but I'm curious about what would be this difference for you between the, let's say, regular school, whatever it is, and thinking school. How would you frame it for now? Just just a kind of.
I think you wrote it. What was on the website of the CRI, right? I remember from that you said, or I understood it that you make the difference between thoughts and thinking. So one as a process and the other as a form that is coming out of it. And I would understand a school of thinking that we reflect on the process before it goes into the form. And how I understand the presentations, I liked it very much, and I thank all of you who contributed. Really, it was very interesting, but it was all again content. And actually it was content that I knew of already, and I would like to relate it more to the inner worlds maybe of the people who are here. I think we're doing it right now, or start to do it, and that's why I wouldn't really criticize it, because it was, you have to start somewhere, and I think you did great, all of you who presented, and all of you who
Just to expand on it, how would you suggest to do that, so that people, so the participants kind of apply what they learn during the presentations in their thinking already, or
yeah, or maybe this is what I said in the beginning, have more space to say what you already have thought about thinking, and that we can start from there and see, this is important, it's about, I don't know, meaning or something. And
So it's like together thinking on thinking. That's what you're talking about. Together thinking on thinking.
Yeah.
More participative way rather than expert way.
Yeah, right.
Process like.
Yeah.
Would be worth to write it down, because it sounds like something that is important
Yeah.
quality which
Yep,
you lack.
but I think this is what you wrote in the introduction of the website, and I think this is, for me, this would be the most important point of the whole school, and not more forms and more content, and this direction, but behind it, before we go into the thoughts, what is there? And what are the motivations of the people? What are the
But the
motivations?
question what is there is also a question that calls for content. What is there? How can we discuss what is there without a content?
Maybe there can be content and no content.
Of course.
And we can have content.
Let's have content on the cortical level, and then
content
go to the subcortical.
Right.
One box.
Right. Maybe
Yeah,
you
maybe
open the box and
this
there's
is why
content. and
I
there's
would
no
call for a combination of, maybe a shorter presentation, and then combine it with what is coming then.
Because I mostly agree with what you said and appreciate it. And I think it's, the seeing this difference in quality, I think that's something that's very important. But for me, within the content, I don't know how to say, or within the session, I experienced that, what you are describing. For example, in this exercise which you proposed, it was too quick, I'd say, for this kind of big thing to do. But for me, it was a tool. It was interesting, to see how the mental models could be shortly, and yes, it was lack of discussion about it, how, what will happen, and if it works and doesn't. So, but I experienced the same with pattern thinking. I had this, that, oh yes, okay, there is something in it, but not enough reflection. What is in it for me? But really, I would say that I took from content something what is about thinking process and enrich me and beavers.
The beaver example took over.
The beaver.
But I think that's also in the line of what Gail said. If we're thinking about now the curriculum, it's not about this week, because this week is not, in a sense, there is a gap between this week and the curriculum.
It's not delivery.
No. Just to make
Yes.
just to say,
important.
it's a very different places. But then surely, as we can see from here and what will come next, it's an interdisciplinary discussion. So if to make it even more to show it, when we think about the program, for example, let's say it's a few weeks program, each week or each day ask a question, WH question. What is a thought? And then what is a thought in psychology, in brain sciences, in art and design, in philosophy, in meditation? Who thinks or what thinks? Another way.
Yeah.
Which are the processes of thinking? So it's like WH question. How do we think? And then and from each question to bring a different kind of perspective. As long as there is brain in every session, everything is okay.
Please put it down.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And the heart as well.
And
Heart.
heart. Yeah. Of course. The heart is in the brain.
Only you can say that. And I'm completely not with you.
I want to bring the control.
See, there's no conflict.
The brain is the heart.
And I'm making a joke.
No joking.
No joke.
Less infinite jolliness, sir.
Oh yeah. Damn it.
Yeah,
I like
I
it.
wanted to say something. There is also another way to call for participation, which is focused, and it's interesting. We didn't do it this time yet, but maybe it can be introduced, and anyway, I think it does have place in more extended, which is actually that whoever is participating, it's being called at least once during the event to present, and there is a particular question. It can be what is thought, or it can be what about the said now, or a particular theme, or even personally chosen. But to come and to give 10-15 minutes of presentation that open a short discussion. And then this is part of the school, to present. To present and to lead your thought in a fashion which is coherent to others, and to use it as an opportunity to steer the particular discussion that each one of us sitting here is interested in. So to do it in this fashion,
I like this, like call with a question. There's like a real question. Like we have this flying question thing. So like, for example, like kind of a question concretizes in the school, like emerges, and then it gets addressed to somebody, and the person is, like, we have a question, like who could answer that? Okay, let's hear from, and the person presents something, prepares something and presents something.
And everyone that a student must be an active participant.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
course.
Oh yeah, and it makes total difference.
Yeah, we do it in all my courses.
In terms of
Yeah.
form, another one is after you.
yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Buddhist first.
Make some space for an incapable listener.
I'm
No.
competing. Maybe I can be a better
Yeah. Shall we?
A better,
you than you.
maybe. I mean,
Are
I'm
you?
not doing a very good job.
Come on!
Are the boys
Safe
are
language
getting, the
for
boys
them.
are getting playful now. Cool. Yeah, no, I wanted to say something.
It's better if you do.
Otherwise my time is up, right?
They need intentionally long now.
Yeah. Is this off? Oh. Can you?
Really?
Yeah. I'm saying something political, nobody's.
2 weeks as a working professional to go take a training. You don't get a week to do it, especially then if there was money on top of it, it would have been even harder to. So where one of the interesting pieces that I've already taken away, even though they have been short and they have been quick, is I don't think about the individual that much. I don't do that much reflecting. I don't have time to. I already work 70 hours a week, and have a wife and like go home and separate myself from everything. So it's like two very separate lives. So even like getting to do it in this way and hearing different experts and people that are way more into this than I have ever been, and hearing those different things and exposing those different things still has individual takeaways for me. So you know, there is a lot of value, like, even in these quick exposures to different things, that maybe I'll be inspired to go like read a book on certain subjects that connected with me more than others. But you know, as someone who doesn't do this that often, like, I found it all very interesting so far. I mean, I'm very curious by nature, but you know, I just wanted to bring that up as a, like, you're not going to maybe get these huge deep dives into every single subject where you walk away thinking you are some expert. Like, unless you're going to do a 2-year course, which I'm sure each of these things could be their own 2-year courses, like, all you're going to get is a taste of everything to understand these different ways of doing that. And I still think that's a really interesting model that, even in a more compressed time, has already made some impact on me as more of a participant rather than thinking about what I'm going to be speaking on as well, like a lot of you here that are trying to serve in dual roles.
Okay. We'll be wrapping this part up. I think for the rest of the program, we need to make spaces for like checking in a similar way. And also, I think it's important for each person who will be still teaching to like kind of introduce the thing in the whole picture. So why do you think this, like, what would kind of the content that you will be sampling here bring, and why, and how in your view it fits, and what you will do and then do it, you know? So maybe some kind of, and then like if we could leave, 10-15 minutes in the end of the session, so like it doesn't like go too long, but it's like within the session that we kind of reflect on what has happened. I think it would be useful. And on a more general level, yes, in designing the school of thinking, we need to like put some time for thinking, in the in the program, right? Like thinking together about what's happening and so on, not just like learning, just like doing the thing. So it's kind of stolen from your session, but the session was about group dynamics, so I think it's kind of
self-explanatory.
Yes.
In the 5 minutes work.
So, but Ivana will still